You're stuck with me for a little bit longer as we bring back Amazonian to the broadcast. And let's get some thoughts from you. Amazonian, we're going into match 8. What have you thought so far about the matches we've seen today?
I think that North America is kicking so much butt. There was so much talk, especially like we're in a green room and we're like, oh, Europe, they brought a different lineup. We're talking about the metas for every region. And North America, the ones who believed in the Zoe Nami, are just undefeated. Oh my God.
I mean, that is super interesting to think about, right? Especially when we've had quite a few lineups actually trying to target that specific deck cast.
Yeah, I mean, you can ban it. That's the easy solution.
That's a good point.
You could ban it. We've also seen people in the past, though. HowToDie made it into the top 16 by specifically not banning the deck. The deck is known to still brick, and HowToDie was just like, I'll leave it up, and if you beat yourself, then I just get that free win. He then goes ahead and brings Zoe Nami now, and he's been popping off with it, and he's 2-0, and the deck is performing really well for Americas, so I don't know. Maybe people should go back to banning it, because the deck has still looked fantastic all day.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, we do have another high-stakes match. We just saw Artify and Real Key go at it for their first win of the day. We've got 2 more players that are looking to do the exact same. We've got Pinpingho versus HowToDie, which are both sitting at a 0-1 record in Group B. And I just can't wait to see how this is going to go. We've got 2 SEA players going at it, Amazonian.
Yeah, this is also a make it or break it round. If they lose in this match, no matter who loses in this round, it's not going to be top 8 for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's big, right? One of these players is essentially eliminated at this point if they can't find the win. The other's still gonna have to fight, but at least we know SEA is picking up a win. They're picking up their first win of Worlds out of this matchup. It's 2 SEA players going up against each other.
No matter what, yeah.
Versus HowToDie. I mean,
SEA.
Pinpingho, I think, has gotten the better of this matchup a couple of times in seasonals and prepping up to that. In general, he's had better results, but HowToDie, representing Vietnam, has been a very solid player as well in the region. And I want to see if SEA can completely shift things in the back half of today, because this is a region that is underrepresenting how good I think they actually are.
Yeah, for sure. And especially with HowToDie bringing that TFGP Nox control deck, I really want to see whether or not that actually makes it through the bans. But Amazonian, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the deck lists?
Will do. So HowToDie, as you just mentioned, did bring the TFGP Noxus control. This is a deck that utilizes a really nice combination of burn spells, direct removal, and big units that Noxus can provide to get damage through. Draven Caitlyn, you've probably seen it before. It's a nice deck. It's a Tri-Beam deck, which means that a lot of its spells cost exactly 3. And then, here's the odd one out, Shen Jarvan?
Shen Jarvan. The run back.
This deck, I posted about on Twitter, and people made fun of me for playing it. And I went, I think, 4-0 with it on ladder. So, I don't know. I think it's got legs.
It's kind of a relic of the last meta. I mean, it was the most popular deck for a very long time in competitive play. It got fizzled out a little bit with a lot of the new things in Bandlewood, but it's still a very powerful list. It's still got a lot of legs, and clearly it must be a comfort pick for HowToDie. He just likes how it's positioned in this meta. It's very good at unit-based combat against these other unit-based deck lists, and we see a lot of that from Bandle, so it might be well positioned. I don't know the tables as well, because no one else was really playing it or testing with it, but I can see on paper where it feels like it might be something that works out. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about these 2 players decided to break into this matchup. I mean, Pinpingho versus HowToDie.
So Pinpingho, we did watch earlier, and HowToDie as well, but you and I think, may have been casting... Oh no, that was me in Swim before. I totally remember 5 hours ago. Yeah, look at this lineup, and I love favorite champion Riven. She's not here, though. She's busy. She's somewhere else. Pinpingho, though, with a fantastic lineup. I'm a little sad it hasn't performed better so far today. The double aggro with the kind of mid-rangey aggro deck following up here. What do you think about these decks?
Well, I love triple aggro lineups. This is as close as we've got here with the Sivarak Shan as well on top of this. I think that pirate aggro is a little bit soft now. It's slowly fizzled out of the meta, so I'm not sure I love that, but discard I still think is such a powerful deck, and I think Pinpingho is still going to be able to find victories on that list. It's a little bit greedy, missing out on the top end with the experimenters, the augmented experimenters, only running it as a 1-of. So it can run out of steam, but he does have the potential to blow people out in like 5 turns over and over again with these aggro decks. And we have to watch out for that explosiveness from Pinpingho. On the other side, though, is HowToDie going to be able to hold on with these controlling lists against the aggro, or are they going to be too fast? That's the big question that I have, right? This is going to be GPTF with Noxus on that control, kind of a keg control, kind of similar to the TF Swain variations, but this time with GP. We do have Caitlyn Draven, and then the, I believe that's the Jarvan Shen that we have on the end there. A lot of these are very good against more unit-based aggro, and because of that, I think it's going to have a good time against Pirates. Might have a decent time against Sivir Akshan. I think HowToDie is reasonably well positioned in this matchup.
So we're going to take a look at Pinpingho's deck, the Draven Jinx discard deck. So this deck feels a little bit like a relic, but it actually has some nice new tools. So if you've been playing Legends of Runeterra, you've probably played this deck. It comes and it goes, but it's always been there, and it's one of my personal favorites. This deck is all about going wide and buffing up your entire board with vision. Everything you discard builds things up. You get a crowd favorite to overwhelm your way to victory, and as a kind of a high end, this deck kind of ends at 4, is Jinx. And Jinx is like a built-in face burn board wipe. Love to see it. Draws you cards. One of my faves.
Yeah, Jinx is still incredibly strong. If you can keep her on board, she's going to be a value generator with the card draw. She's going to be generating damage every single turn with the rockets as long as you can empty your hand. My concern with this version, and I mentioned it earlier, is the 1-of augmented experimenter. If Pinpingho runs out of steam, he is out of steam. He is done. He is not going to be able to continue to refill like you normally would with the multiple augmented experimenters. He can easily just miss it. He can never run into it because it's a 1-of. There's no rummages either. There's not a lot of draw. This is very much, does he hit the curve he wants? If he does, the deck is still going to be as monstrous as it always has been. But there aren't the ways to fix the curve that we used to have a lot of in this deck with the rummages, with the augmented experimenter. So we are just stuck with what we're given. You take what you get, you don't throw a fit, and you see if you can throw enough damage at the enemy nexus.
Something kind of nice in this matchup, though, is that he doesn't have to worry about that 1-of experimenter being discarded by his opponent. There is no Bandle City representing over here. I'm not sure, actually, if the Piltover Zon lists are running aloof.
They should be.
But we're going to see.
I believe they are. I'll have to take a look at HowToDie's list and see if he's firm, if he's got that. We do see the bans. We are going to see the control deck banned away, and also discard taken out. I like the discard ban.
Aggro getting banned. Yeah. It's a shame. We just saw the deck, but you know what this does mean? It means we might have a chance to see a couple Merciless Hunters.
A couple gifts for Renekton here. A couple of them.
I think Renekton deserves it. It's his birthday.
Does need a few gifts, but aloof, to confirm, aloof travelers are in the Caitlyn Draven list, so there would be a way to get rid of that top end. We'll have to see if the gangplanks get thrown away from the pirate aggro list. That can be a big impact, as well as getting rid of decimates, or just getting rid of the top end of the Sivir deck, being able to get rid of things like Concerted Strike, the big important tools, or Sivir herself. These are things you gotta be watching out for your Pinpingho. But on the other side, HowToDie gonna be queuing up that Draven Caitlyn, and does already have one of the champions in hand with the attack token on turn 3, which is exactly what you want to see.
Oh, and that Tri-Beam and that Caitlyn in hand, this has got to feel great for HowToDie. Feels like, oh yeah, I'm setting up for my early game, my mid game, late game with this hand. Yeah, and now we're seeing a big mulligan from Pinpingho.
Yeah, big mull from Pinpingho. We'll see what he ends up picking up. That curves out very nicely.
Hand.
Yeah, that's great. He's got the Leaf Feather Tracker on 1. He's got the token on 2 to go with the Protector, with the Barrier. Gonna be solid. There's not gonna be anything to hit because HowToDie doesn't have any turn 1 plays. But overall, it's a pretty solid curve out for Pinpingho, and if he can clean it up with picking up some Sivers, Akshan, something like that, it's gonna be really nice overall.
Like to see that pass there, banking the mana and getting this birdie in for 2. Pinpingho with the first blood.
All right, turn 3. You know what that means. We play our champions.
Caitlyn.
Yeah, Caitlyn comes down. The trap's gonna get a lot of value in this matchup. There's a lot of things with low toughness. The bird that we see on our screen having 1 toughness, but everything else in the hand having only 2 or 3. So getting the traps to set up this Time Winder or the Ravenous Flock are gonna be really good. Caitlyn actually lining up quite well in this early game.
She's a great threat early on as well. There are not many units which can survive her quick attack, so when she strikes, she's going to be planting those flash bombs right in the deck, and sometimes they're going to be doing things like destroying small units, maybe it'll be popping barriers. With this Bright Steel Protector, very, very flexible piece. So we're seeing the guard there. We did see a hover over the Bright Steel Protector to try and get a free block, but instead letting Caitlyn hit face and getting down the Warlords.
Yeah, gets down the Warlord's Palace. Kate gonna get some traps in, which are gonna be very nice, as we mentioned earlier. There's a lot of ways to actually get them in, because HowToDie is actually main decking built over Peacemakers. This is one that we don't see very often, but that's gonna get even more traps into the opponent deck.
That is
Continue to
not
set up
the
the board
Caitlyn
players.
spell? Amazing.
Yeah, he's got some main deck. 2 main deck versions of Built Over Peacemaker, which I believe is the only player that is running copies of that card in this deck in the tournament right now. And
I do love the relevance of so many of these champion spells. It's great, and I think it really shows good card design where when you have one of your champions out, their champion spell becomes more relevant.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I mean, this is another 3-mana spell, which is going to be great for the Tri-Beam. HowToDie did have a Tri-Beam in the mulligan. Been able to have a lot of 3-cost cards in hand. We see the Thump Dredger, the Thump Fumes, Built Over Peacemaker. It's going to set up really nicely for a big beam to come down later, potentially deal with the Screeching Dragon that we see in hand from Pinpingho. And if you are able to get it strong enough to deal with the Screeching Dragon and have that big tempo swing, HowToDie will be well positioned to continue to grind out this game.
So right there, we did see Time Winder bringing down all the units on Pinpingho's side to 2 health. That's super relevant because it means there's a nice cleanup for this Peacemaker. But, ooh, sand's dumping shaped.
We get that shaped stone, going to be able to stop the Built Over Peacemaker from actually clearing that away. Caitlyn dies, but that's a lot of traps being put into Pinpingho's deck, and we're gonna actually see. There we go. There's 2.
There they go.
Board is cleared.
Look at those. That is the glory of those traps, because when they get drawn and there's a unit with only a little bit of health left and they clean it up, it feels so good. It's like I just got a free value board wipe out of my champ.
Yeah, that's great. Now grabs a Scorched Earth. I wonder, I mean, HowToDie, if he's playing directly around the potential of a Screeching Dragon coming through and he just wants to be able to scorch it, it's great. But also Scorched Earth just for the Warlord's Palace is going to be incredibly strong. Like, this is a good answer to something you normally can't actually stop from doing anything, and it's going to stop the Ukshan from coming down leveled up, stop some card draw from coming through, and it's a fleeting card that costs 3 that's going to buff up your Tri-Beam. It just overall does so many things that you like to see. I do like the pickup of this Scorched Earth, and I fully expect to see HowToDie just kind of pop that off.
Yeah, I don't think that Pinpingho is going to want to just pass through this turn. It is a lot of value to get the dragon out, try and clear the board, get some fury, but with that Scorched Earth, any damage on the dragon means certain death.
Yeah, it will mean death, but also the Ravenous Flock can just do that as well, so it does feel like landmark removal is going to be the fire pickup for that. Instead, it's not going to be a dragon. It is just going to be play of the Treasure Seeker. And we do have the Waking Sands put into hand to set up some potential aggressive lines in the future, but some fumes are an easy enough answer for that.
We see our Station Archivist swinging in, taking out the blocker. Still as a 3-1, is going to get a little bit more value. And Pinpingho passing back to HowToDie. HowToDie now has to make up his mind. Does he use the Scorched Earth on that palace, or just let it go away, bank the mana, and don't let your opponent play anything else during the turn? They will be burning, like Pinpingho's burning 3 mana if he passes through here.
It's so tough, because that's a great point that you bring up, Amy, is if you take this pass, then Pinpingho burns a lot more mana than you, and it feels good to do that with what your deck wants to do, but also losing that Scorched Earth, losing the ability to get rid of this Warlord's Palace is a scary prospect. I think the mana overall is worth it. I like the pass. I'm in favor of that pass. We will have to see if it ends up biting HowToDie, if maybe an Akshan comes down, levels up very quickly, and we see the Warlord's Horde actually come into play, because that can be terrifying, but the game might not necessarily go that long. We might not even see Akshan. Possible HowToDie can just set up for a big tempo swing with this Tri-Beam as it's getting rather large, and continue to just grind away once they find their Lost Soul, because they're still missing that.
There's also still so much nice removal in hand. Looking at HowToDie, we've got the Tri-Beam, but also Sump Fumes, Flock, and of course, we do have the big ol' Laser Beam, Thermogenic Beam, ready to take out a big unit in case a dragon does come into play. But no, it looks like we're going to see Bright Steel Protector that's going to protect the Merciless Hunter when she swings in.
Yeah, we'll be able to utilize the Vulnerable as well to get a free trade onto Station Archivist. And HowToDie does have the ability to play some Fumes and get rid of the barrier and just make it a trade. It's not the worst thing to be able to get that, as you are still playing a 3-cost card, and maybe you just go for the Sump Fumes and then you just set up to play a 3-mana Thermo Beam to follow it up, and you just all in this Tri-Beam as being as big as possible. Kind of feels like a reasonable line. You're still getting all the removal out. You're clearing up the board. You're keeping a Sump Dredger online, and then the next big threat that Pinpingho plays, you just get to Tri-Beam whatever it is. So this has got to be a very large Tri-Beam.
Yeah, and this Thermogenic Beam being cast for exactly 3 also adds to the Tri-Beam, which is a neat piece of tech. When you think of Thermogenic Beam and its flexible cost, you don't always think about what that's triggering in your hand, and in this case, it's a 3-cost spell.
All right. Open attack with a Scorched Earth to pump the Tri-Beam even more. Wanting to deny this immediately, liking that you're able to find that. Station Archivist did let you know you would be drawing it fairly soon.
I'm so happy that Astute Academic came back on another card. One of my favorites. I love playing slot stacks. And here comes the Screeching Dragon, furious, challenging, ready to kill some units.
Ooh,
Or
okay.
get inconveniently, very inconveniently, hit by a trap.
Okay, so there's Protector, but you could actually just go for the Tri-Beam with a Flock on top of it, pop the barrier, and actually still kill this off. HowToDie wants to be just dealing with the Screeching Dragon. Does go for Draven, gonna greet out another proc onto the Tri-Beam. I mean, this is gonna be massive when it actually swings in. It is going to be generating a very large unit. I'm not sure what it is going to be at. I'm not sure what these hits are gonna be, but we know it's gonna be impactful, because this has got to be between 6 and 8 at this point.
What is your favorite cost to cast it at? Very often you end up like, I already have enough to remove the biggest unit on the board. I don't need it to be any bigger. It's all about rolling the unit. So what's your favorite cost unit to get?
I gotta go for the classic, the original Zinc Beam, as we've called it in the grassroots scene, which was being able to cast it at 4 mana and just hitting Ancient Crocolis and getting that 7/7 for 4. And I always think back to the moments where we've seen that, and I just love the ability to find that cast.
Normally it requires you to sacrifice something, but not here. It's just like, ooh, free crocodile.
And it takes such low effort to get it up to 4 as well. So you just like cast a couple spells, it's at 4, and then you just win the game with your 4 mana removal. Here's the Lost Soul.
Oh, and
Finally
there's
comes
a
through.
Lost Soul.
That's big.
That's the value engine right there. HowToDie, gotta be happy about that.
Yeah, finds the Lost Soul. Still has this Tri-Beam to clear away and create a big unit on the board. It looks like we are going to, at this point, go for the Screeching Dragon, and then from there you can axe and play out the Twin Blade Revenant, and you have a very strong attack coming through. This board might even be able to represent lethal depending on how big this card is that we get from the Tri-Beam.
So in response to the Tri-Beam, we are going to see single combat.
Yep.
That is going to
Okay.
also get
Wonderful.
stopped by the Flock. We're seeing all the spells here.
So importantly, this does tap HowToDie out of being able to actually play the Twin Blade Revenant on this turn. We are going to even see a Sharp Sight to prevent that. Does want to kill the Sump Dredger HowToDie looking just so aggressive as possible, but does end up burning a lot of cards through and ends up with a 6/6 quick attack.
Not the worst.
Finding the Plaza Guardian. It's not a bad body. I mean, a 6/6 with quick attack that you get for just casting a removal spell, you certainly take that and be able to push through a lot of damage on this turn. And from there, I mean, it's going to be hard for Pinpingho to actually deal with this 6/6. He does have the Concerted Strike, but he doesn't actually have any units to play that with yet, and he still doesn't. He will only have the Waking Sands. He can play the Ruthless Predator with that, however. That at least will give him the ability to deal with this Plaza Guardian.
And here comes the Boom Baboon, a very nice blocker right here. A handy 3/1, and we're going to see Ruthless Predator, though, to force the Plaza Guardian into battle. Still
Yeah,
3/1 out here, and now Lost Soul coming out, making its a little challenging buddy in hand. That's still 8 damage being represented on the board, with a 9th from this Spinning Axe.
Well, it's just game. HowToDie just can open attack. There's not anything that Pinpingho can do without a board at fast or burst speed. It's just going to be game 1 going over to HowToDie and picking that up over Sivir Akshan already with the Caitlyn Draven. He's just going to have to find one more win against these two aggro decks, and he's doing it with Jarvan Shen, who is... This deck has done a good job in the past against these board-centric strategies. I don't think that HowToDie is in a bad spot at all. I think this is a really good position. Jarvan Shen came back for a little bit as a potential counter pick to Sivir Akshan before all the nerfs to Sivir Akshan that it received. And so you're getting to play against the nerfed version with a deck that was already being used as a soft counter. So HowToDie, I'm feeling really good if I'm in their shoes.
Yeah, this is not how to die. This is how to live. How to live amazingly. And Pinpingho, an amazing player himself. These are two amazing players. But in this matchup, with these bans, with how that first game went, I also think that HowToDie is in a very good position. And again, the Jarvan Shen deck, I had good luck with it. And I think that HowToDie is onto something with it as a meta pick.
Yeah, it's looking good. That's a lot of 1-drops that we just saw in Pinpingho's hand. This might be a very explosive start, and we'll see if HowToDie has a way to answer, because right now, he has no plays until turn 3. I'm expecting Pinpingho with a 3-wide 1-drops swinging in on turn 2.
Oh, and look at that
It's starting
hand.
to get scary. Yeah, it's pretty terrifying.
That is damage, damage, damage.
Yeah,
We've
no
got
response.
Elise's best friend. And the Crackshot Corsair coming into play. That's guaranteed damage. And look at this turn 2 swing. Bringing HowToDie down to 13.
Yeah, you deal 7 already. HowToDie does get to play now. It is turn 3. HowToDie also has this Spirit's Refuge, so there will be some ability to get life gain at some point throughout this game, and Laurent Protégé is still going to be very good at dealing with what's on the board, but Pinpingho does have very strong early plays overall. Does have turn 4 to go for Zap to keep up the pressure by replacing itself and still being an elusive threat. Overall, it's a good early position. You get a lot of damage in. You're way wider than your opponent. You do have decent develops. We might even just see an open attack. Yeah, you don't really want to let HowToDie develop an additional blocker. Just make him go for combat tricks instead and just push as much damage as possible. Look to finish with these elusives and the spells you draw from them.
Pirate Aggro doing what Pirate Aggro does. Try to win the game before your opponent can even do anything. If they don't have early units, they're going to struggle against an opening hand like this.
Yeah, it's an absolute struggle bus for HowToDie. I mean, he's got a couple tricks up his sleeve, right? He's got the single combat, got the twin disciplines, he's got the Spirit Refuge. Spirit's Refuge probably going to have to wait a little bit longer before coming out. I mean, I suppose you could do it with the single combat, get a decent amount of lifesteal, clear a bit of the board, but you won't be able to develop anything on this turn if you do so. So maybe just going for 1 block plus a single combat's a little better, but...
Oh, but no, going for that
like that's the line,
lifesteal
though. Yeah.
and the single combat. This is going to make up for a lot of the damage that's already been dealt. HowToDie looking ahead, trying to make sure that he survives until the next turn when he can get a lot more done, start getting out champions, and a lot of other very high value units in hand.
Yeah, I will say those sequence really well for how he did it. He blocks the one at the end that's just a 2-2 because he knows that his unit will survive. Single combats with the barrier onto the strongest unit that is on board. Able to just keep some kind of board pressure with this challenger unit and remove a little bit of the damage coming through, heal a bit, but now there's no more lifesteal left in hand, and it will come down to can HowToDie get on board strong enough to defend themselves, and I think double protege is a very good start.
The Laurent Protege really good against these two Zaps. She is elusive, but she's also not very strong against challenger units.
All right, the attack for HowToDie, it just gets passed back, and now you just use the challengers. Clean up the
Clean
elusives.
up those fish.
Yeah.
Underwater yordles are not allowed to live. That is the law of this land. If they
So
swim, they must
aggressive.
suffer.
If they swim, they must suffer. Watch out, swim. Watch out. I know you're coming up next or something, so just be careful around Amy. She's going after swimmers.
And we just saw a make it rain clean up there. Not quite killing all of the units, and getting a little bit of damage to the Nexus. HowToDie sitting at 11. But now it's Pinpingho's time to attack again with more elusives and more burn in hand.
Yeah, there's the additional burn with that fervor can be used to counteract if there is some kind of lifesteal from maybe another spirit's refuge or a single combat or some other way that's trying to answer your unit. You can just use these fervors, and 2 of them in hand now, representing 6 damage. You've got an additional damage from the Grenadier, and the elusives are going to get through. So unless HowToDie decides to go for the Young Witch as a blocker, but she can only chump the Zap Spray Fin. She can't actually look to trade without use of another combat trick. So trying to find the best way to deal with this board and defend against this. HowToDie having a little bit of life to play with, but behind on width of board, and getting any damage chipped in from units is pretty devastating for HowToDie.
We're seeing Shen come out. Shen not able to block the elusives. Zap still able to get through here. But still a very effective blocker, being a 3-5. Able to block the fearsomes. Still gonna live after that. What? Oh, here does come the Young Witch.
All right, just gonna use it to chump. Yeah, you can't really afford to take this extra damage. I have to throw
It
away
makes
the
me
Young
so
Witch.
sad to see the Young Witch not get to serve her supporting purpose. No, no quick attacks here.
Yeah, gonna go down to 8. We see 6 damage in the hand of Pinpingho. You can lose out on that damage if we do find ways to stop it with something like a single combat. The Gangplank is a gorgeous top deck.
Yeah, now I'm not sure if Gangplank is leveled, but I think he is. I feel like every single opportunity, Pinpingho has managed to get damage on the Nexus. And here's Noxian Fervor, blocking and burning.
Yeah, preventing the spell draw from the River Shaper by denying the strike, getting that face damage in, and setting yourself up to play this leveled Gangplank. You should be able to just push the rest of this damage. I mean, he's going to get the barrel out now. He's going to drop another keg at the start of the next round, deal 3 to everything, wipe the board, and overwhelm for 6. I mean, there's a lot of combat tricks here for HowToDie, but considering that there's also an elusive and also going to just be this fervor, might be it. Goes for the attack first, though, and this opens up maybe a Spirit's Refuge play. Decimate, though, is probably damage regardless. Looks like this is going to be Pinpingho picking up this win. I'm looking at the combat tricks to see if there's any world that HowToDie can get through there by buffing up this Shen and getting a lot of lifesteal. It's going to try, but the Decimate on top of this, because it's already a ton of damage coming through. Is the Decimate
Between
just
the
going to be
Fervor,
enough?
The Decimate,
Yeah.
and Gangplank's attack ability, Pinpingho's probably just checking the math here.
Yeah, you can just use the Fervor,
And
actually. And the hand
Going
is
for
empty.
the Fervor, yeah.
Yeah. The hand's empty. You go for the fervor. It does 5 because of the double barrel. That's just gonna
Does
do
5,
it.
and then you get 1 more from GP.
Just for good measure.
You know, I mean, Gangplank, he's doing good work. He's a very effective captain.
Yeah, this was really well done by Pinpingho to just navigate that last little bit of damage. You had a great start with those 1-drops, and then the triple zap to find spells so you don't run out of gas. Really helps out
And
quite a bit.
HowToDie did empty his hand there, trying to ensure that he would be as stable as possible at the end of this attack, but there's the fervor.
Yeah, it's not writing song parodies, but it is a fervor face, and they are going to just take that game. Pinpingho grabs that 1 more to go. It's Sivir
Nice,
Akshan.
tying it up.
Sivir Akshan versus Jarvan Shen. This has historically been a little bit favored towards the Jarvan Shen, but it is close enough that Pinpingho can just find a good early start, a good early curve, set up for that leveled Sivir, and bring home a win. It is by no means settled.
No. And these 2 decks have a lot of fast interaction. So if we are in the midst of combat, anybody could win.
All right. This game is so important for both of these players. A loss means they will not make top 8. A win here gives them a shot to do so if they can continue to win out on the day. Wanting to represent SEA, who has had a very tough day number 1. No wins yet for the region. One of them will happen here, and one of them will have a chance to continue on and try their best to represent their region in the top 8.
Curve.
That is a
are
good
you
curve.
seeing that onesie twosie?
Yeah, you got the Treasure Seeker, the Akshan, the Sivir.
Sivir.
It's a pretty good start for Pinpingho.
That's a nice hand for Pinpingho. And HowToDie with the mulligan. Getting an early Young Witch is nice if he wants to be aggressive. Double Young Witch. In fact. I'm a big fan of Akshan, by the way. His story is so good, and I'm so glad that he came out in Runeterra same time as League, so I could be like, oh, and he uses the Absolver in order to reanimate the people based on who was killed. That's so flavorful. I'm not a huge nerd, but like I am a huge nerd when it comes to League lore.
I am not a huge nerd, but I am a huge nerd. Quoth Amy 2021. Thank you so much for that one. Great.
Hi, I say the most contradictive statements.
But yeah, I mean, Akshan, awesome to see him in all 3 games at the same time. I think those releases are really cool. We might get more of those in the future. That'd be awesome if we do. But Akshan in particular has been a big staple of the meta ever since his release with this Sivir deck. And even with the nerfs, we're still seeing so much representation from it here at Worlds. And we might have a chance for Pinpingho to take it all the way to top 8 if he can start with a win here against HowToDie and continue on this run. And like you were mentioning with this curve, it looks good. It's even rounded out even better. Merciless Hunter pickup. Starting to just find ways back into this, wanting to potentially protect the Akshan. And it looks like HowToDie is going to respect it and just take out the Treasure Seeker instead.
Smart move. Getting into a fist fight with Akshan seems dangerous when there's enough mana to cast things like Shapestone.
We have Shen in hand for HowToDie, so a lot of the supports are available. It's very powerful to have the chain of Young Witch, Shen, plus a Challenger. And it's very hard for Sivir Akshan to actually interact with that and break it. One of the best ways is the Merciless Hunter. We see that in hand. There at least is one way already that Pinpingho is going to be able to try and interact with that setup. But HowToDie does have the Twin Disciplines. He has Combat Tricks, and he also has another Young Witch if the Young Witch ends up being the ire of Pinpingho's removal, and it looks like she will be. So HowToDie will have the replacement, will have the support of the Shen. Overall, a pretty good position to start things off.
We saw the pass there into Merciless Hunter, putting Vulnerable onto Young Witch.
Yeah, looks like the attack might just be Akshan onto the Young Witch, utilize the Vulnerable with the quick attack, get that free kill, and
And
then
the Fearsome
Yep.
cannot be stopped here. without the use, of course, of a trick. We do see twin disciplines in hand, but that's our magic streamer vision.
It is the magic caster vision trademark that we are able to use here to know that, hey, there are combat tricks for HowToDie. There are also combat tricks available for Pinpingho to continue to buff these up, and as of right now, he's just winning on board. And you have to feel really comfortable with a rally in hand and a Sivir if you already have a board lead. Merciless Hunter, one of the best cards in the matchup to be able to pick your attacks, because it is really just the strength of the Jarvan Shen to be able to just fight on board. So if you can pick your opponent's blockers, it is an incredibly strong tool in this matchup. It's always a strong tool, but I think exceptionally so when you are entirely playing for the board.
Yes, Nova, I am inclined to agree. And speaking about picking your attacks, HowToDie may not always get to pick his attacks. Jarvan has this strange tendency of just coming out into play if you want to get a good open attack, challenging who he wants to challenge.
Yeah, not gonna.
Of course, 1 mana short to summon him this turn.
Yeah.
It would be 2 turns away
Exactly.
for that to happen.
Not gonna have token on 6, so not gonna be able to get the value immediately. But what's cool is you actually have this scattered pod, which is a great turn 6 play, and that will just fill out your curve until a turn 7 Jarvan that you can set up with potential for combat tricks to go alongside him. So I think HowTodie's got to be happy with how this hand curved out, because as much as you're sad about, oh no, can't play Jarvan on 6 with no token, you've got another one. You got another option. You got some other cool stuff to do. Maybe you even hold on for combat tricks to play on this defense to try and get better blocks.
Scatterpod is a 2 of in this list, and it's a very, very nice blocker. I like that it refunds a little bit of its spell mana, and it also gets you a kind of random spell out of your deck. It gives you a slow, fast, or burst spell, which covers most things. Everything but units.
Yeah. You're able to kind of pick and choose the spells that you're able to pull out, right? I think a lot of players will run like a single slow speed spell so that they can always tutor it with their scattered pod. I do want to take a quick look at the deck list.
In this case, all of the slow spells are the rally. It is the Relentless Pursuit. Oh, and Golden Age. It's one of each rally in this.
But they're all rally effects, and actually at fast speed, minus the Notify, they are all going to be removal spells like Concerted or Single Combat. So you have really good ways to pick what you want to hit with the Scattered Pod when you want it. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons that this card fits so well into Jarvan Shen is a lot of the cards you're running at the specific speeds do exactly the things that you're going to want, or they do the same thing, but it's just different copies. You're running like 6 copies of Rally and 6 copies of some kind of combat, or you know what I mean, right? Like some level of those, and it's
in
so
combat. Good. Yeah, it's even though they may have slightly different effects, like one might give barrier, one might be giving lifesteal, one might be giving a bit more attack, a little bit more life. No matter what, they're combat, rally, and usually some sort of a buff.
Yeah, some combat trick.
Yeah.
All right, but Merciless Hunter does go on to Shen, can set up Sivir for a removal, but you have to be very careful of combat tricks. You only have Absolver or a Ruthless Predator. I guess there's still the Shaped Stone as well.
With both champs on board and the double Merciless Hunter, I would love to be in his position. Maybe not so much because I think that this is the best spot to be in the game, but because these are all cards I love, and swinging in with them is so satisfying. And getting Ruthless Predator.
Yeah, it's gonna level up.
Which is gonna level Akshan. Here he goes. He's a little bit bigger, and it's time for a Warlord's Horde.
Yeah, Warlord's Horde. I wonder if he'll go for the Sandstone Charger. Yeah, does feel like the best play. You put that on the Shen. If it eats a combat trick, you're like, cool. Like it doesn't.
Cool.
It's not a big deal.
It's ephemeral. Yeah. It was going to die anyway.
Exactly. It's getting so much.
And of course,
value.
putting it on the end in case of lifesteal.
Yeah, you won't exactly be finding lethal, but it's still just overall good practice. You want to drag things to the end or the beginning, depending on the life total of your opponent. HowToDie being at 12. I always want to drag that to the end, play around that lifesteal, like Amy was saying. And this is a big swing. These are 2 fearsome units. You can't block those. You can try and block quick attack. So unless you use one of these buffs on the Young Witch, she's not going to get anything done. Sivir's not being threatened by a health buff or a barrier just yet. This is a great attack from Pinpingho. This is exactly how he needs to play this to find the victory. I can't think of a better way to have lined this attack up. I think this is just kind of the best way that you could have done this.
So we're seeing
Okay.
buffs
2 buffs.
on the challenger here, trying to take out Sivir.
Yeah. 7 mana.
And of course, Pinpingho
committed.
has no mana.
Yeah.
Now look at that. Down to 6 for HowToDie.
Pinpingho has rally.
And what we can see, by the way, in Pinpingho's hand, there's something that I find very, very strong, and it's the combination of the Shape Stone and the double Absolvers to just get through a ton of overwhelm damage.
Hey.
Single combat might be able to stop that, but not much else.
Yeah, Pinpingho trying to figure out how to pilot this turn. I think you just protect your Akshan with your combat tricks. You can look for a rally, and you can look for a big Absolver to overwhelm for the rest of the damage. You might be able to go wide with the Treasure Seeker and the Waking Sands. You know HowToDie doesn't have much mana. The biggest concern at this point is going to be single combat or some other combat trick. I guess Twin Disciplines is a bit scary because there is quick attack on this Laurent Protege. So if you do buff your Akshan, and HowToDie has a Twin Disciplines to buff the attack, you're going to still lose your Akshan, lose the buffs you were trying to play, and lose a lot more. And Pinpingho going to play around the potential of a single combat or of a Twin Disciplines, and we'll see if he can then convert with this rally, with this Waking Sands from the Treasure Seeker to try and find something big.
Oh, and we're seeing Pinpingho emoting here. Shaking his head. The emote meta, by the way, this weekend, not as strong as the deck meta. I think these players are both concentrating so hard that they're like, I don't have time to pick out the best emotes.
Okay.
Oh, but
Rally.
HowToDie also with a rally now in hand.
Yeah, it does have the rally. It's going to give really good ways to remove. You could just rip it now, try and prevent Pinpingho from developing, because then you just have Young Witch plus Protege to clear something away. It's not too bad to pop it now, because then you either have the way to attack in, or if you force Pinpingho to just swing preemptively, you then get to develop Screeching Dragon into an attack. There's just so much value you can get from this Young Witch plus Protege combo. We do go Pod. Maybe grab Fast, look for Concerted or Single Combat. That or Burst for a combat trick.
Prepare yourself. We move soon.
A lot of the burst speed spells have been used already during this game. I think there are Sharp Sights, Twin Disciplines left, and one
go
Spirit's
slow?
Refuge.
That's so interesting.
Going slow.
I was
for a
not expecting
double
going for the
in
rally.
hand. Huh. And there's only one copy of each of those rally effects, so that is all the slow cards in the entire deck.
Yeah, I was really expecting to go for some kind of combat trick, but instead going for the Golden Aegis. It's going to play that onto the Young Witch. It's going to protect her against any challenges on this turn. Sets up a really good attack.
One thing it doesn't get around, though, is Overwhelm. And again, with those two Absolvers,
Yeah.
because there is a leveled champ, we've seen Akshan level, there's a potential for just a lot of unavoidable damage.
Yeah, I think Pinpingho is just going to win. I think he's just going to be able to push through. There's only 1 mana. There can't be a single combat. There can't be any combat tricks that buff up the HP. You just get the overwhelm
Pinpingho,
with too
you
much
just
damage
make
stacked
this,
up. You just stack
this
it up.
charger, or make Merciless. You know what? Make my girl huge. Make her and her big old frog lizard into the monsters you wish you could see.
Yeah.
And giving the second pair of buffs to the charger. So we're seeing a double whammy here. HowToDie not gonna survive this attack. Pinpingho getting to win the first win for Southeast Asia, unfortunately also against Southeast Asia. So HowToDie will not be making it into the top 8, and Pinpingho still in it to win it.
Pinpingho is able to pick up the win with the biggest gift for Renekton, staying in the tournament, having a chance to make it to that top 8. He's got to pick up one more in his last match to even have a shot to make it into that top 8.
I think that's what makes the rest of these matches so exciting, right? Is that the top two spots are still kind of up for grabs. You have no idea if the two players sitting at 2-0 are going to stay there. And what about the players that are now sitting at 1-1? I'm just so excited to see what's going to happen when we get a chance to actually take a look at the standings. But talking about this particular match, you guys were saying going into game 3 that the Sivir Akshan versus the Shen Jarvan was kind of a toss-up there. So, Cass, in your opinion, what kind of happened in that game that really allowed Pinpingho to take the win there?
So Pinpingho curved out really nicely, and it's important that you do with this deck. If you start to fall behind on board, you won't be able to catch up into the support chains that get set up with the Shen, with the Young Witch. They're going to start clearing your board with the challengers, with the quick attack, making free trades, and you won't be able to come back. But because Pinpingho was able to start aggressively, having a 1, a 2, setting up for Merciless Hunter to clear away some of the supportive units that are on the back line, it opened up opportunities for Pinpingho to push damage and eventually find the win. But we look at the end of that game, Pinpingho wasn't ahead. He was actually losing on board. He was about to lose, but he had enough just gas in the tank, and he had done enough damage early on that he was able to finish. Because board position wise, HowToDie had stabilized. He was ready to just come back and win the game.
Yeah, super exciting stuff to get a chance to see Pinpingho take that reverse sweep. Game 1 went to HowToDie, and then Pinpingho able to bring it back with those aggro decks. But let's go ahead and take a look at the standings and just catch everybody up to speed on where we are after 4 matches apiece for each group. What Am I and Ikato still sitting at those 2-0 records, and we've got 2 players in Group A and Group B that are sitting at a 1-1. Amazonian, talk to me about this. What kind of players are you looking out for when it comes to the matches that we still have left?
Well, What Am I is my personal pick for Group A, and for Group B, Ikato already in the lead with Cosimo actually as my second pick. It might just be the little Pikachu that he had up on coverage earlier, but that's how you win my heart. As far as the builds go, What Am I? I'm a big fan of the decks that he ended up bringing today. I mentioned before that he actually had considered swapping over into a triple burn build. Did some testing, found he couldn't quite find the deck list that he needed, and ended up going with a very similar deck list lineup as he had brought in the qualifier rounds. And it is doing fantastically in Group A.
I can't wait to see what's going to happen because we still have 4 more matches to cover today. Casanova, we do unfortunately have to say goodbye to you for now.